Back in the day, if we wanted to make content in Elite Dangerous, lovely videos for you to watch, to teach you the game, to show you amazing places, or even just to tell a story or make you laugh, the only tool available to us was the debug camera. A camera system so primitive yet was used by an entire generation of content creators to make some of the best Elite Dangerous content on YouTube. It was the Wild West. The limitations of the simplicity of the system forced people to be creative. For myself, it meant filming in VR and using the headset as a Steadicam, which led to my video series where I put talking heads on bodies, and so Mostly Aimless was born. Then, in the spring of 2017, Frontier Developments unveiled their love letter to the content creator community, the Camera Suite. And my goodness, it was glorious. A fully customizable camera system which could basically look anywhere, complemented with several preset camera positions which could be tweaked. Anchor to the world, anchor to the ship, or just fly around freely. Zoom, depth of field, oh my. And to celebrate this, they announced the Control-Alt-Space competition, calling for content creators from across the globe to come together and make something cool. And that they did, and it was wonderful. We love the camera system. It helps us to do what we enjoy, making content for you, and sadly this is the end of the nice bit, so buckle up, because something changed, and it never really got properly addressed. You see, after all of the fanfare, after this amazing feature had been given to the content creators, something happened, and in response to this, Frontier laid the groundwork for something which would plague content creators from that point on. A feature seemingly without reason, without any purpose bar a single action, prevents the players from viewing things they're not supposed to. I'm talking about the blackout effect. That fade to black when your camera ventures somewhere it's not supposed to go, or when the game thinks you're not supposed to be. The thing I like to refer to as the shot ruiner. It's the monster in the bushes, the booby prize behind the door, and the thing that will catch you off guard and destroy that perfect screenshot, that video with your friends that took 20 minutes to set up after getting everyone into the same instance, only for something to set it off and wreck the shot. It's the bane of the content creator, and the thing that for the life of me I cannot understand what it's defending and why it was built the way it was. I'm sorry, Frontier, I know you're under a lot of pressure at the time of recording, and I'm more than willing to give you guys all the time you need to fix what needs fixing. I'm not here to bash you. I'm here to try to remind you of those days when the camera was first released, how it felt to see all those content creators able to make great and beautiful videos, which, let's be real here, do show the game off in its best light more often than not. The passion and love on full display. I want to take you back to that time, so you can revisit the camera and find a better way which doesn't cause us pain and waste hours of our time for no reason other than your system to detect whether we're in a place that we shouldn't be is neurotic, paranoid, spiteful, trigger happy, and has a bad temper. I shall demonstrate. In each case, I'll explain what I'm trying to do and why I think I'm being punished for trying to get an interesting shot. We're going to make a pretend Ascorbius episode. And if you don't know who Ascorbius is, well, check out the other videos on my channel. And as we're here, press the buttons, you know the YouTube drill by now. Thank you. And let's continue. Ascorbius is on approach to a station. I like to do this establishing shot, filming where the ship's going to visit, and then cut to a docking shot. It gives the viewer a sense of scale. Stations are massive, and they can look quite beautiful. I use the autopilot to land the ship for me once I get docking permission, and then I can sit back and relax as I film one of the most wonderful transitions in gaming. From the harshness of cold outer space to the welcoming glow of the mail slot, and yeah, shot ruined. And then it comes back, and then I land. At no point during that flight did I move, do anything wrong, or attempt to see something I wasn't supposed to. What happened, I believe, is this. You see these other shots? The shot ruiner kicks in when the landing gear comes down. This suggests that the landing gear models became active and started to obscure the camera briefly. The landing gear collision boxes are probably set to obscure the camera, so they invoke the wrath of the shot ruiner. When taking off again, a similar thing happens. As the ship crosses the threshold of the hangar to the station, the shot ruiner kicks in again, every single time. I would very much like this to be fixed. I really want the ability to film seamless transitions. Okay, on foot. Ascorbius departs from the ship. He makes his way to the hangar. So far so good. Quite cinematic. Look at the size of that clipper. Amazing. It's all great right up until he gets close to the elevators, where the camera inexplicably goes black. Like there's a large volume which, while invisible to the player, should the camera attempt to enter it, oh no, blackout effect. Once inside the elevator, Ascorbius takes a ride to the concourse. Perhaps he's got someone he wants to see. Maybe he wants to buy a new ship or hand in some plant data. He starts to walk. I set the camera quite low so Ascorbius looks more imposing. He walks behind a post, a bollard box thing, and bam, the screen goes black. What am I doing wrong here? Am I being punished? I feel like I am for trying to get a nice establishing shot. Let me make an assertion here. It might be incorrect, and I welcome Frontier correcting me on this if it is, but there is nothing at all in this interior that I'm not supposed to see. I'll add to that assertion with another. The camera has a collision mesh. We know this because NPCs push it around, as do other players. Even your own player character can push the camera around. Everything in the scene has a collision mesh. That bollard thing does. Why not prevent the camera from colliding with other objects with a collision mesh? Why let it clip through at all? The camera is performing a raycast and the bollard gets in the way. I'll talk about this a little more later. Anyway, moving on. Ascorbius decides to walk up the stairs towards Apex Interstellar. Maybe he wants a taxi, maybe it's the fastest way to get to the pub, maybe he just likes the high ground. Who knows? It doesn't matter. While walking up the stairs, yep, the handrail posts get between Ascorbius and the camera, so the blackout once again. Teeny weeny thin handrail posts will trigger it. In fact, absolutely any scene object which gets in the way will trigger the blackout. You still following along with me? Well, tighten that buckle, we're about to go deeper. We're going into anatomy. But first, let me illustrate the problem with a really simple shot. Super simple. Let's walk from the right of the screen to the left. This shot establishes Ascorbius traversing around. He might be on the radio to someone, he might be talking to himself, as is his wont sometimes. So just going from right to left, let's see how many times the shot ruiner is going to destroy the scene. I'm going to add some effects here for good measure. You ready? Let's go. So how can this be? Well, let's visit the Apex Interstellar counter and see if they can shed any light on the situation. Keep an eye on the two signs. Travel more and Interstellar Transport, best prices in the galaxy. We can clearly see Ascorbius, right? We can see his head, his arms, but as soon as his junk is obscured, blackout. That camera really wants to see his dangly bits. Okay, I'll be less crude. What's actually happening is the camera is casting a ray towards the hip bone of Ascorbius, and if anything solid obscures it, it's overreacting. This can be anything, a pamphlet, a countertop, a bollard, anything. What's this hip bone, you ask? Well, for those who don't know about skeletal animation systems, let me show you. This is iClone, a system I use for animating 3D characters in my videos. When Elite Dangerous makes it impossible, or there's no content that can support what I'm doing, like ship interiors or caves, I use iClone. Here you can see my Ascorbius model, currently living his best life as a 3D avatar. If we look at his skeleton, you'll see a bunch of points all connected by lines. These are the bones, and by moving the bones around, the character moves around, basically deforming the 3D model of the character to conform to where the bones are. This is how all 3D games do animation. What is raycasting? Okay, let me show you that too. Here is a game I've written called Yeeterbox. I have this thing where the player can go behind buildings and I wanted to make them transparent, then return to normal when I come back out, so I can always see my player. This uses a raycast. Anything which gets between the camera and the player is set to a different material, and when they come out, I set it back. I did actually tweak my code so it did a shot ruiner type effect. Here's the code. It probably looks complicated if you don't know code, but imagine it to be a sniper looking down a camera towards a target. And if you're still not sure, you've heard of hit scan enemies in shooters. The same principle. You cast a ray from the enemy towards the player. If it hits, take damage. If it hits a wall, make some particles appear at the point of impact. Anyway, back to Elite. So the camera is testing to see if the hip bone, the bone that most of the other bones are connected to, 2 legs and a spine, is visible. This isn't a terrible assumption on the developer's part. I'm not assigning any blame here. It's just that if they'd chosen the head bone instead, it would have probably taken longer for me to work out what was happening. By the way, Frontier, please don't just change the camera to test the head. Please remove the effect and find a better way. Like I said, the camera and the environment all have collision meshes. Now, I could just use a different angle where the hips are visible and accepted as it is, but I'd have to ask myself, why would Frontier try to restrict the creative freedoms of a person making content which effectively promotes their game? When there are restrictions like this, all shots end up looking the same and stagnant. They're all restricted in the same way and by the same arbitrary rules. Rules which make no sense to anyone watching the content. We got away with it before when it was just ships, but people scale, it's a lot harder. You know how I like to show different vertical perspectives, looking up or down depending on the mood I want. How can I show Ascorbius' head and shoulders from the desk or slightly behind the person behind the desk if I have to always see his pelvis? There are numerous other examples of shots I could try to film in order to tell a compelling story, but right now I can't even film him walking along a gantry without it ruining my shot. So Frontier, please heed these words. I am one of your content creators. I've been doing this since 2016. I try to entertain, to show Elite in its best light while fleshing out the universe with my own stories, always within the bounds of the law. I always try to push the envelope and show something new to entertain and to make people see things in a new way. So when Elite changes and gives me something I've wanted for so long, space legs, something I've been forced to use CGI for in the past to achieve, something which takes me a very long time, I am just one man after all, and then it appears that I can't use Odyssey for that without significant creative restrictions which make absolutely no sense to me. It makes me extremely sad. Frontier, please remember back to those days, the days of the creators loving the new camera system, and ask yourself, is this right? Are you happy with the decisions you've made after I've shown you what it does? I'll leave you with a small montage of silliness and occasional blackout effects on a planet and a small positive note. Your camera system is better than Star Citizen's. For now, anyway. Oh, come on, that was a joke. I was joking. Come on. Like and subscribe. Have a good time and fly aimless.